Welcome to Today in Putnam County, hosted by Putnam County Mayor Randy Porter, the show that takes a look at the events and what's happening all around Putnam County, as well as interviews with local, community, and business leaders. And now, sharing his insights and experience, here's Today in Putnam County with County Mayor Randy Porter.
Thanks for joining us this week. I'm County Mayor Randy Porter, and this is Today in Putnam County. My guests this week our new police chief, Scott Winfree, and Major Jeff Johnson with the Cookeville City Police Department. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Glad to be here.
Thanks for being on the show, Scott. You've been the new chief now for a couple, 3 months?
About 3 months now.
So how's things going?
So far, so good. Like I said, it's according to what people are telling me, everything's going well. So
you're still in that honeymoon period,
I
though,
sure
right?
am, and I'd like to stay here as long as I can.
I understand. But you're not new to the Cookeville City Police Force. You and I go back a long ways. You've been there, what,
35, 36 years. I got hired in 1989.
I remember when you came in and have had a good long career with the police force, and no doubt you were the one groomed and trained to move up into Chief Evans' spot. I haven't saw Randy since he retired. How's he doing?
He's doing well. We played golf this last weekend, and he thinks he's still on vacation.
Well, he's still in that kind of honeymoon period too, with the retirement, I guess.
I think he's got a lot of honey-do lists.
Honey-do lists.
Yeah, I think that's what he has.
Those lists grow. We talk about big shoes to fill. When you look at Randy Evans, he had done a great job.
Yes,
been there a long time. We were talking. We go back to the days of when the police chief was a short-lived position at the city. Yes, sometimes couple 3 years at the most, and we were changing.
I know when I got hired, it was about 2.5 to 3 years for the chief. That's how long their tenure tended to be.
Lots changed.
A lot has changed.
Used to have a safety director too, didn't we?
Yes. We had a safety director before. That was probably in the early 80s, mid-80s.
Yeah. So the safety director was up here, and then you had the police chief and the fire chief under the safety director, I believe. Larry O'Rear was safety for years, I think.
I believe I was actually attending Tennessee Tech, and he taught a class over there, and he was safety director at that time.
Yeah, so it's lots changed. Got a new building not long ago. How's things going at the new building?
Building's doing great. It was a labor of love. I was very involved in that building. Myself and Chief Evans pretty much dealt with that building on a daily basis for about 9 years.
You did it the right way, and Jeff, I know you were involved with it too. And I remember Randy Evans coming to me and saying, "How did you build the 911 center? What did you do, and what would you do different?" And I told him, I said, the key is the planning, going around to all these other places that have built buildings and say, what would you do different if you had it to do over again? Mm-hmm. Or what did you do right that worked out really good? And you gain all that knowledge of all these others, and then you put it into your building.
And that's what we did. So when, the foresight that he had was instrumental in the building we have now. When he first got promoted to chief, he came to me. I was a lieutenant at the time. He said, would you like to be project manager for the police department side in this? So we ended up going to a class in Dallas, Texas, put on by the International Association of Chiefs of Police about building a police facility. So we attended that. We went from Detroit to Dallas, down to Orlando, looked at buildings, did exactly what you said. And we asked these chiefs and city managers, what do you like about your building? What don't you like? So as you go through our building, I can tell you where we got different ideas from different departments.
Oh, yeah.
Sure can.
And there's so many little things that they did that the new officers will never know, the things that we used to have to deal with. Just like we have a chute to put warrants in from dispatch to come into the parking garage, so you don't have to get out, go inside, go through the rain, leave your prisoner. Just so many little things that they did to the building that we all see. and really appreciate.
Well, and Jeff, the comparison to this building and the old building, there is no
There's
comparison,
no
is there?
comparison, no.
I mean, y'all had outgrown the old building many, many years ago.
Well, I remember when I got hired in 1989. Shortly thereafter, I think it was in the summer of '90. I remember having a meeting with just a department-wide meeting. They said, "Well, we're going to have a new police department pretty soon. We're looking at that." So yeah, it's all relative.
30 years later.
Yeah.
30 years later. Well, that was in the beginning when in the basement of that drama center when it was built. I mean, it was nice.
Mm-hmm.
But that was back when Cookeville was small and not growing much, and it outgrew itself very quick. Y'all have a great building, and I told you before, this new city police station building, I think, is the best facility that the city's ever built.
Yeah.
And that's because of y'all doing it right and going and visiting all those places and knowing what you need to do. And the other good thing about it is, like I was telling you earlier about the 911 center, how we came in under budget and gave money back to the county. You came in under budget on the city police station.
Yes, we did. And needless to say, it made a lot of people happy. So, but we were glad to do it. I mean, we were aware of the taxpayers. We were trying to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. We wanted to make sure we got what we needed, looking toward the future. But at the same time, where we could cut costs but still have the same product, we made sure we did that.
Absolutely. And that was, I remember some of the commissioners, specifically Jim Martin and Bob Duncan, telling me when we built the 911 emergency services facility is build it for 25 or 30 years.
Yep.
Now that's hard to do, especially when you don't know how much the city or the county is going to grow. And I don't think any of us could have realized that it would grow as much as it has.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to plan out as as far as you can to try to make sure that facility covers.
Yes. Yeah.
So Jeff, we've heard all the good things about the new chief. You want to tell us some of the bad ones?
Oh, I don't think there is any bad. We're all excited, and it's with Chief Evans leaving, it sort of just stayed the same. There's a few little changes, but nothing major, and we just think he's doing a great job so far.
I think he is too, and
I'll pay you later.
yeah, give him a day off or something. But you being there, Scott, for all those years beforehand, and I mean, you came up in the ranks, and to me, that's the best way to bring a new chief up is to. I see these departments, and you can agree or disagree, okay? I see these departments that go and the chief retires, whatever, and they go to another state or somewhere and pull somebody in that doesn't know anything about the department. That just doesn't make any sense to me, that if you don't have good people inside your department that can step up, there's an issue there, isn't it?
Absolutely. I've said this for a long time, that as soon as someone gets promoted, they need to be looking and teaching someone to take their place.
Yeah.
To have that succession planning. And that's one thing about Chief Evans. I mean, I can't say enough good things. I mean, he was always thinking forward, not just immediately, but 2, 3, 4, just iterations down the road.
Yeah.
And, he not only had me, but at the time there was the different majors, getting them involved. And that's why I feel for myself that the transition's been very smooth.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to make for, the majors and the captains and, everybody else too.
It's been one of the smoothest transitions I remember in the Cookeville City Police Force. I mean, when you think about it over the years,
I agree.
It's been really good. How's hiring going? I know y'all have had the same issues that we've had, especially when it comes to not only law enforcement, but EMS and fire, most of what we call the public service positions. Are you still having the same issues that we were having?
Not at the moment. And you're right. I mean, this was a nationwide problem for public safety in general. And right now, knock on wood, we are fully staffed. Wow. Now, I say that. We have several people in training. We have some people deployed and a few people on light duty. But as far as actually filling those positions at this moment, we are fully staffed. And I'm hoping to keep it that way for as long as possible.
We kind of got in that period, and it happened there about COVID time, didn't it? And it lasted there for 3 or 4 years. kind of a cultural thing, though, across the nation. Some things happen, and like a lot of folks, I don't think they did here locally, but there's folks in a lot of other places across the United States got down on the police force,
Yes.
trying to defund the police and all that stuff, which was a stupid idea.
Absolutely.
You got to have law and order, or you got chaos.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we didn't see as bad here, but don't you think that had something to do with maybe some of our young people not wanting to get into public service and into these jobs?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One thing I talk to officers about here locally, I said, the cell phone, public, social media, you can get on there and you can see what's going on in any area of the country.
Yeah.
And I tell them all the time, I said, but that is not what's happening here. Not just in Cookeville and Putnam County, but the Upper Cumberland and Tennessee as a whole.
Absolutely.
I said, we in public safety in general has the support of the vast majority of the population.
Absolutely.
And don't try to think of what's going on in another state or another city of what's going on here.
You're right, and it's we live in a, I don't want to call it a bubble, but we live here in a great place. We're
Yes,
blessed
we
to
do.
live in this community, and we got to take a break. You're listening to Today in Putnam County. My guests this week are with the Cookeville City Police Department. Got the new chief Scott Winfree and got Major Jeff Johnson with us today. Stay with us.
And now back to Today in Putnam County, hosted by Putnam County Mayor Randy Porter.
Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. Hope you're having a great week. This week's show is about the Cookeville Police Department. We've got a new chief there. His name is Scott Winfree. He is no stranger to the police department, though. He's been there like 36 years, moved up in the ranks, up into the new chief now, been there 3 months or so. They got Major Jeff Johnson with us, been there several years with the police department, too. And these guys are great public servants. I can speak for both of them, known them for many, many years, and they do a great job with the police force. Scott, we were talking about some of the issues with the police force and the new building and everything that you've done, but there's two key individuals. It's not just all about the police officers, is it? You've got a group of folks that sit over there just like we do at the 911 center that answer those emergency calls and make sure that the police officers get there. That's our telecommunicators, right?
Absolutely. They are definitely behind the scenes, but they're the first ones you talk to if you have a problem. You call 911 or if you call the police department directly. And, of course, there's Telecommunicators Week, and they were recognized. Our dispatchers were adopted by members of the community, and I can't say enough about them. And you know this, through 911, that they are truly professionals. They help people in times of crisis. They can help calm people down. And they get as much information as they can, and it's a hard job. They're in that room for 12 hours.
It is tough, and I always thought the toughest thing about being a dispatcher is that you get that initial call, you're dealing with that call, but you never get to see how that call ends.
I think that's one of the hardest things for them is they don't get to see the end of what happened, and a lot of times the officers will go in and talk to them, but sometimes they don't, and they're a big part of that call.
They are.
They're huge.
They set the standard for the call.
Absolutely.
Calming the person down, making sure they get the correct information so that your officers or EMS, whoever it is going fire, whoever's going into the call, have all the correct information that they need because it's life-threatening, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, you think about it. Whenever public safety is involved, when law enforcement is involved, it's usually a very traumatic point in someone's life, regardless of what the call is.
Worst day of their life.
Might be the worst day of their life. And those dispatchers, telecommunicators, they have to be able to stay calm and talk to that person and try to get them to where they can communicate with them and get the information they need.
It's I know that dispatching has really changed. I started as a part-time dispatcher when I started EMS. That was before 911. I'm getting old, I guess. But you trying to get the correct information out of a caller that's panicking over their loved one or somebody's broken into their house or they've been involved in a wreck or whatever. It's a difficult job, and I don't think the dispatchers, and I think you agree, don't get enough credit sometimes.
It's very stressful.
For the job that they do. So you also got another group of folks that sometimes get left out of it, and that's all the administrative folks that you've got involved in your operation.
Yes. So the Administrative Professionals Day is coming up, and those people, they take care of all that paperwork and get us organized, make sure we're at the right place at the right time, and keep our schedule. And they just do so much for us, and they don't get recognized either. So I want to put a big shout out to them.
Yeah,
so.
they're in the background a lot of times working and don't get that recognition that they deserve. I'm gonna ask you this question. I'm not sure there's a right or wrong answer to it, but in your opinion, and I'm gonna ask you too, Jeff. In your opinion, what's the number one problem you think facing law enforcement today?
All right. So that people always think, well, is it crime? Is it any number of things? It's this thing, in my opinion. Cell phones and social media. First of all, distracted driving causes so many wrecks. I can think back. I think back when I got hired, and there were no cell phones, and then as cell phones started being more prevalent, I was a night shift officer. I'd be behind someone, and almost positive I had a drunk driver in front of me. And that's exactly what they look like.
They're on that cell phone.
They're on that cell phone, and back then it was just a flip phone, and people texting. And you pull them up, we'd pull them over, get up there, stone cold sober.
Yeah.
And what were you doing? I was texting, and of course it wasn't illegal. I said, well, I wish you knew what you look like. But so you have that. But then the social media aspect of it, and social media, it's definitely a part of our lives, and there's good things about that. But what bothers me about it is what you see in other parts of the world, and you bring it, or you think it's happening here.
Yeah.
And and what's also bad about it is anybody can say anything. And I am a proponent of the Constitution, the First Amendment. I think everybody has that right. But what I would always say is don't necessarily believe the narrative, and especially with AI. You can make anyone say anything.
And these fake accounts.
Yes.
I see them all the time, and I've always said having a Facebook page is a blessing and a curse.
Yes.
And you know it, especially in public life. These folks that will get on there and say stuff that they would never say to your face.
That's right.
And then you get people, the agitators, that don't even live here, that get on and start saying stuff to agitate and get folks going that do live here. Some of the things we've had in the past, one of my, I won't name, but it was a hot topic, and had one of the media outlets said, oh, they're just wearing us out on this. And I said, have you went and looked at the people that are wearing you out? And they said, well, no. I said, look at them individually. I said, give me just a minute. Went out there. I said, out of 72 comments that you got on that post, only 8 of them even live here. The rest of them don't live here.
And that's we've noticed the very same thing. And what you will see, and what we've seen in the past, is a lot of times people that do live here then in turn get on and they defend the county, the city, and
take up for us.
Take up for us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jeff, how do we fix the cell phone problem? I've always thought that if there was some way when you get in the car that everything was disabled on the phone except for you to make an emergency call, or if you to use your hands free to make a phone call, that would help, wouldn't it?
There is some apps I think that do that, and as like when my kids were teenage drivers, we had their phone set to where it was on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah.
It was on Do Not Disturb when they were driving. But I wish I had the answer to that.
It's just,
that is, as coming from traffic where I was a captain at, that was the biggest issue we had. It was distracted driving, whether it be cell phones or people eating or playing with the radios. They're just very distracted when they're driving now, and that's where the majority of all the accidents come from. So if people just, put that thing down, it'll wait till they get where they're going and make that call.
You think about it too, nearly every car, I don't know, since for the past 20 years or 15 years is compatible.
Yeah.
To have hands-free driving and they'll link up to your car, but people I see them in a brand new vehicle and they got the phone up to their ear.
I think it's just the habit of walking around with it all the time. They just get so used to it.
They don't realize how dangerous it is, though, do they? I mean, I remember a wreck that we had head on out in the county, and come to find out, they went back and did the cell phone research on the phone and found out that they were on their phone at the time of that wreck, and they kill folks, and you can ruin your life like that. I was here a while back. I was going to Nashville, and there's this car in front of me, a little erratic, and I thought, well, I'm gonna have to call this in. So I got up beside of them. There's a lady had a book in her steering wheel. Reading a book while she was driving down the interstate. I thought we've lost it sometimes with some of this stuff with our cell phones.
And you're driving a 3,000-pound missile.
Yeah,
that's what you're right in.
And you know, if you're looking down at that cell phone, you're not watching the road, and you're distracted, and it's so dangerous anymore. I wish there was something that we could come up with that would fix that. So. Work on that, guys.
We'll work on that.
Work on that. Hey, you're listening today in Putnam County. We'll take a break. I got Scott Winfree and Jeff Johnson there with the Cookeville Police Force. Scott is the new police chief. Been in for 3 or 4 months now. Took Randy Evans' place. We're talking to them about their new jobs and a lot of the things that's going on in Cookeville with law enforcement. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
And now back to Today in Putnam County, hosted by Putnam County Mayor Randy Porter.
Welcome back to Today in Putnam County. I'm your host, County Mayor Randy Porter. Hope you're having a great week. Our show this week's about the Cookeville Police Department. We've got a new chief in town. His name is Scott Winfree, but he is not a stranger to the Cookeville Police Department. He's been there for about 36 years, worked up through the ranks. And we're talking to him today along with Jeff Johnson. He's a major under Chief Winfree at the Cookeville Police Department. No stranger either. Jeff, you've been there several years too, right?
Just finished my
29th year. That's longevity.
Yes.
We don't see that as much with the newer generations, do we? We all figured out what we wanted to do and pretty well stick it out and do that till we retire. But the younger generations, they're changing jobs 6, 8, 10, 12 times in a lifetime.
Yeah, it's not like it used to be.
I don't know what's up with
They'll
that.
change professions, not just.
Oh yeah, and just get totally from one thing to another. So, yeah, so it's a crazy time. Hey, we were talking about crime rate in Cookeville. Everybody wants to know, is crime bad or is crime good or whatever. So how is the crime rate in Cookeville?
So overall, the crime rate has gone down, and what we look at are what called the index crimes, those measured, by the FBI. And so overall in the city, the crime rate has gone down significantly. Now, while property crimes have dropped nearly 20%, some of the personal crimes have gone up about 2%, and those being aggravated assaults and personal type crimes. But along with that, mentioned that property crimes in general have gone down. Here in the past six weeks or so, we've sort of had a rash of vehicle burglaries where people are breaking into vehicles. And when I say that, in the past 6-7 weeks, we've had about a little over 20 vehicles broken into, but they were all unlocked except for 2. And those 2 were actually down here on Interstate Drive where somebody broke a window.
So they're leaving their vehicles unlocked?
They leave them unlocked, and they leave everything in them. Since April the 8th, we've had 7 vehicles broken into, again, unsecured.
Yeah.
People just opened the door, and 8 firearms stolen out of those 7.
Out of the cars.
Yes.
That's very dangerous. So, folks, if you're listening to this, make sure you lock your vehicles when you get out in the parking lots or home or wherever you might be, because it's just that's just an invitation for a thief just to open the door and get anything you want.
There's videos out there, Ring videos and stuff where it just shows people walking through a neighborhood just hitting doors, and when one opens up, they just get in it and get what they can.
Wow. So lock your vehicles. That's a good point. The crime rates being down, and something else that I noticed that was down has been the panhandling and stuff that was going on there for a while. They were at every intersection, it seemed like, these folks. And we're not talking about folks, be clear, we're not talking about folks. Most of them are not hard need. And I think you agree that we had people that were driving in here in van loads of people and getting out of the van and going out and begging for money. Then these are people that do that for a living, right?
Yes. We had those that are, like you said, that was the way they made money. and believe it or not, different intersections around the city, it wasn't out of the ordinary for somebody to make $250, $300 a day. And you think about that, that's tax free.
Yeah.
Now, we obviously do have people here that, are suffering from, substance abuse or some form of mental illness, and we have that problem. But panhandling in general now has gone down in the city. I've noticed that. We still have people out doing that, but there are services, and there's resources within our community and the Upper Cumberland that can help people.
Yes.
And it's out there.
It is. You just, but they didn't want it. They were using it as a job. The panhandling. One thing I think probably helped was when the state passed that new law, especially on the state right of ways and stuff, where they couldn't panhandle. We get a lot of that down on the interstates next to them, and I noticed it's went down. But is the homeless issue is that better? I mean, I don't. We don't see it like we used to, I don't think, but maybe it's in places that I'm not there.
I believe it's down. I mean, when we drive around Cookeville and see some folks, there are still some encampments, where people are living, but in general, it appears to be down what it was a few years ago.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I think the property owners have really helped out with that because they've come forward and let us trespass people from their property and stuff. So it has spread it out. And a lot of the ones that we had here were not from Cookeville.
They came from somewhere else.
Got out off the bus here and just kind of stayed for a while. So I think it is down. And I think, with the property owners trespassing people, it's really helped with that.
Used to be a rumor, I don't know if it was true or not, that there was other places buying people bus tickets to get them out of their cities and just get them somewhere else. And
we were told that.
Yeah.
It was. We were told people, that we would deal with. They say, well, someone's this city. They bought me a ticket and sent us to Cookeville.
Yeah, that's sad, isn't it? That another community would do that. And we live in a great community here that I don't think we would ever do that. But that's it seems to be better. But that all goes back on the homeless to a big issue we have across the country, and that's mental health.
Absolutely. Yes.
You see it in the people that you're involved with that are creating problems, doing crimes, people we have in jail. Most of them have some form of mental health issue.
Well, you'll have, you may have someone who has a mental health issue, and then in turn they try to self-medicate.
Self-medicate, yeah.
And it becomes a substance issue. One thing that we have done, and there's lots of great resources within the community, but one thing that we initiated a couple years back, and it involves our dispatchers, it involves the Cookeville Fire Department, and it involves a mental health provider. And that is our Cookeville Community Response Team, the CCR. And what this is that if we receive a call of someone having some type of mental distress, the dispatcher will dispatch this. It's a van, and it has a paramedic in it, and it also has a mental health provider, and they'll go respond to them. Where in the past, a lot of times a police officer went. Well, we're limited on what we can provide, but the CCR van, they would go speak to the person and try to get them resources, and then they would also follow up in the days after. And I believe that has helped. I know it's helped. Our officers greatly appreciate it. I know I've spoken to the firemen and the paramedics that have worked it, and they are enjoying doing this. They feel like they're really providing a service.
Yeah, those folks didn't have many resources. I mean, if they had a mental health issue, it was police or EMS having to come and get them. And then we've decreased, the state itself, and I guess across the country, decreased the number of mental health facilities to help take care of these folks.
Absolutely. That was one of the big problems with this over the past several decades is the getting rid of those mental health facilities. Now people are in, because at some point the families can no longer take care of someone, and they're at their wits' end, and so people just get sort of put on the street.
Yeah, and they don't have a choice.
That's right.
And then it starts going downhill, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
That mental health issue starts, and then like you said, they start self-medicating themselves with drugs, and then they get on the drugs, and then they start committing crimes to get more drugs, and eventually they're going to end up in jail or prison, or overdosed.
Or overdose, you know, and
we're seeing a lot of drug overdoses. Fentanyl is a terrible thing.
oh, yeah, it is terrible. I was looking at the statistics, and over the past 4 or 5 years, you know, so every one of our officers will carry AEDs, Narcan, APPens, an assortment of things. And, you know, over the past 4 or 5 years, we've consistently stayed about the same level of how many people we Narcan.
Yeah.
You know, because we'll get there and someone's overdosed.
That's a terrible. Stopping the fentanyl coming in is what should be one of our number one priorities, and I think it is with the new administration. But that's killing our young people.
It is. It's you think about it. Over the past several years, each year, the number of overdose deaths in this country have. We're looking at over 100,000.
Yeah.
And you take homicides and vehicle crashes, you're looking at, you know, anywhere between 65 to 80,000. Whereas, you know, overdose deaths themselves are killing a lot more people.
It's sad. Guys, I appreciate y'all being on the show. Scott, congratulations on Chief. Jeff, congratulations, Major. Y'all do a great job. We live in a great community.
Yes, we do.
Blessed to be here, and we don't see a lot of the issues that they have in a lot of other places, and I'm thankful for that. But I appreciate the many years of service that y'all provided and continue to provide for our community.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us this week. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and may God continue to bless Putnam County.
You've been listening to Today in Putnam County, hosted by Putnam County Mayor Randy Porter.